Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. Cue the Matt Monro music. I promised you I would be back here at Thornley Kelham to do a dedicated video on this beautiful Lamborghini Miura, because when I was here doing the film with the European RS, I just couldn't believe the story and I wanted to share it with you. And the best person I could think of to tell us all about the restoration of this very special car is Simon Thornley, and he's going to be joining me to talk through everything there is about the car behind me, which is arguably one of the best conditioned Lamborghini Miuras in the world. So we're still here at Thornley Kelham, and I did promise this video. It's not going to be anything fancy. I just want to know the story of this car, and Simon from Thornley Kelham is going to talk to us, because for me, this is one of my favourite classic cars. I think anybody of my vintage that watched The Italian Job and watched the guy driving through the Alps with a bit of Matt Monro playing on the stereo until he met his demise with the Italian mafia. Yeah. But they are so pretty. But this car has a fascinating backstory. Over to you.
Well, let me just start with on a personal note. So I'm approaching my allotted 70 years and 10.
Okay.
So I was first turned on to cars in the 60s by two cars.
Yeah.
The Jaguar E-Type.
Oh yeah.
And this.
Yeah.
And this was simply because I got the Observer's Book of Cars in 1967, and this was in it. And a tiny little black and white picture, and I just looked at this thing. I'm from Scunthorpe, so this is a northern kid who sees this picture and goes, my God, that's a car. And it said maximum speed 184 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking, you know, and I just like cars.
And back then,
and
cars
so
didn't do that kind of speed.
No, and of course that wasn't true anyway.
Right.
But that's and then separately, through a family connection, my wife's Italian, I met Ferruccio Lamborghini a couple of times. Before, in his latter years, obviously. Yeah. And so, for me, I always wanted us to fully restore a Lamborghini, preferably a Miura. I'd still like to do a 350 GT or a 400. Yeah. Or fully do a Countach. But when we got this job, it was the most excited I'd been for a very long time. And so the car came in.
But really, it didn't look like this when it came in. It
didn't look anything like this when it came in. It really didn't look anything like this when it came in. It had, first of all, it was a bit missold to the owner. He wouldn't have known, but he quickly latched on. And it had been worked on elsewhere, and I think was just a bit beyond their compass. Yeah. So by the time it got to here, it was a bit of a mess. And the owner is incredibly understanding and patient. I mean, he's been fantastic all the way through. Yeah. We built up a really good relationship, which is what's important on this. And he said, look, I want it right, and I want it back to its absolutely correct original specification, because there weren't many cars in this silver grey colour from the factory. Yeah. This is a P400, so first iteration. Yeah. And so the owner backs the car off the truck when it's been delivered from the German dealer, and he thinks this isn't right.
Because it was bought as a runner.
It was bought as a matching numbers, ready-to-go car.
Oh.
From a well-known dealer with a good name.
Okay.
Clearly it wasn't 100% ready to go.
No.
As I said, the car goes somewhere else at first and then ends up here, and we had to do a lot of work on the body to get it right and to get it straight. And we discovered, I don't think the owner knew at that point, or maybe that it wasn't a matching numbers car.
Now, for those of you that aren't kind of into your classic cars, this matching numbers thing, and we talked about it briefly actually with the previous video with the guys from Lockton, it is super important for value.
It makes a huge difference, and the rarer and more valuable the car, the bigger that differential will be between matching and non-matching. Yeah. You know, and it varies. So I can't just put a number on it. But you know, I would think on a car like this, easily 20% of the value
Wow.
would be on matching numbers, certainly 15, 20%, I'm guessing. So I did something that I very rarely did back then. Because I was so excited, I did a little post on Instagram, and I said, we've got a Miura to do. And I got this message offline, obviously, sort of saying, Simon, is that chassis number XYZ? From a guy I vaguely knew in the Netherlands. And I said, yeah, it is. And he said, I know where the original engine is for that.
No way.
And I thought, no way. You know, because you do get a bit cynical in this business at times. But I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again in the future. And it was. We saw the stampings, we looked at the engine, and it was the correct engine for this chassis. Not messed around with, you know, you can tell, I've been around long enough.
Managed to find out how on earth that engine ended up not being in this car and the wrong engine being in this car?
Didn't really care, to be honest, and neither did the owner. It's like, okay, the engine wasn't in a car.
Yeah.
So we said, what do you want to do? The owner says, well, we need to buy it. We just need to buy it. Second point, so we buy it and we're told it's been rebuilt by an Italian specialist and you can drop it in the car. So we take it in, we put it on the dyno, it's a bag of nails. It was a bag of nails. So we have to go back to the owner and say, look, you know, obviously we just needed to get this car right. And as I say, he's been fantastic. And so he's understood all along. One of the problems you have when you're doing restoration, particularly because it's a time and materials job, is you can give an estimate, but you don't necessarily know what will happen next. And it's not our fault.
No.
It's astonishing how often you kind of give the sense from the client that, what do you mean it's going to be that much? This is what we're faced with. And you never, by the way, you never get paid for all your hours. You couldn't. But nevertheless, we had to rebuild it, and that of course meant you have to go through the transmission as well because it's unitary. And indeed we did it and put it back in the car. And so everything on this car, every single inch of this car has been redone. And Jeff, interesting things like a lot of people, when they have the interior retrimmed, they go to a leather, whereas this is the false leather that was very often used on these cars. Jeff said, no, I want this to be as original, so it is the correct original. Obviously the right pattern and so on and so forth. Yeah. Retrimmed by O'Rourke's, who are fantastic, and completely to original spec. It's got a later sump, because that's a sensible thing to do. Yeah. I think, from memory, I think the wheels are slightly later wheels. But otherwise, this car is completely factory spec.
I'd probably go so far as to say it's probably better than it was when any Miura came out of factory in terms of modern day processes and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But you look at the paintwork, and I know we mentioned in the last video before, the paint shop you've got here, and I mean, that's the other thing, you do everything here. Right?
Yes. So that was the vision for the business when we set up. It's taken us until 2 years ago to have all of the processes in-house that we want to have. We don't want to do trim in-house. No. For now, anyway. I never say never, but it's not. And we don't do woodwork. No. Pre-war cars require quite a lot of woodwork. Yeah. But yeah, we've got our own paint shop, our own metal shop, our own dyno, engine building, machine shop, assembly, wiring. Yeah. I mean, I've seen if they're not a car you see that often, when you go to somewhere like Salon Privé or whatever, you see them, and I've always lusted after them. I'm quite jealous because Lando Norris has one. He does. He's out on it a lot, isn't he? Yeah. He was literally. I saw him interviewed last week, and someone said, "What's your favourite car you own?" And he went, "My Miura." I'm like, I can imagine why. Although I have had when I was chatting to Johnny from Lockton Performance, he did point out something that once you know about a Miura, you'll never forget, and that is the fact that the exhausts are fake. Well, they're not exactly fake, but yes, they do. The pipes that come out the back aren't connected to the exhaust. Because of the way that the rear clam folds back down, there's a hinging system, effectively, I will say, however, on the other hand, you know that whole thing, never meet your heroes? Yeah. I have driven this car, not in anger because it's not my car. Yeah. And you never know, and obviously I didn't take it to that point where the front end lifts and all that stuff. But it's great to drive. I can imagine. It's tractable, you know, you put your foot down, it goes, you put your foot on the brake, it stops, it goes around corners properly. It's just, you can drive it at low speed. Now, obviously, it's completely brand new, so. But I love driving it. And
would it be crude to ask approximate value? Do you guys, with it being, I think we've stated already, probably one of the best conditioned Miuras in the world?
Well, I think, well, we're talking at a time when Miura values have gone stratospheric in my terms. You know, this is one of the cars that 15 years ago, even 9 years ago, you think, well, I should have bought one then.
Yeah.
We're talking also just after a recent auction where I think it's a P400S that's just broken a record in Amelia Island, possibly $3.4 million or something.
Really?
I would. Actually, the owner had a phenomenal offer for this car by a client who came through and just saw it just after we'd finished it, and offered the kind of money which was beyond market value.
Yeah.
And he said no. He said, I've just spent all this time and effort and I want to enjoy the car. It's got to be, is it a £2 million car? I don't know. Is it a $2 million car? I would have thought so.
Wow. And do you think with the, again, we might not put this in the video depending on what your answer is going to be, the owner, based on what he paid for the original car?
He's fine.
And then what he's paid on the restoration, he's up?
Fine.
And how much of that is due to the fact you found the engine and gearbox for him?
That's a very good question, actually.
Probably quite a chunk.
I think it's a chunk.
20% on 2 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, no, I just say I'm not an expert. I don't really follow the market. I'm so focused on what we do here that I don't go out and do that kind of thing. But I've certainly in the past heard people say 15 to 20%. Yeah. You know, so I mean, it's a good point. I haven't thought about that, but yes, I suppose the marriage of the original engine to the chassis
it's a remarkable thing. I remember a few years ago I was working on a TV show and there was a Maserati Ghibli, which was the Earl's Court Motor Show car of the year it came out, and it had the wrong engine.
Yep. And
the owner was trying desperately to find the matching engine because he knew if he did, it would almost double the value of the car because of the rarity of that car. So to find it, and the joys of Instagram, that's...
Oh, I mean, nothing other than
What kind of followers do you have on Instagram?
Not very many. That was the weird thing. I don't think we've got...
that's one of the... When I heard that story, I thought, we've got to get this on camera and just... Because it's a beautiful thing anyway. Yeah. But that is the most incredible story. Oh, but have you got the... I've got the engine and the gearbox for that. And it's now original.
It's just wonderful. And it just should be.
Yeah.
And the owner deserves that piece of luck, given that he didn't start off with the best.
So, can I take it for a drive?
Possibly not. Possibly not.
Think that.
Much as I'd love to take you out in it, no.
No, I was definitely one of those. And actually, I think it's waiting some oil anyway. It can't start, can it, at the moment? So.
Yeah, I think we're doing a bit of a minor. So and listen, I don't think he'll drive this car a lot, but I know before it came, well, we took it to a show last weekend. He did 50 plus miles in it the week before. Yeah. First time out in end of the winter, obviously. So I don't think, as I say, it's not going to get used.
The fact he's taken out at this time of year with salt on the roads and potholes is hats off to him.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's got full underbody protection, sir.
Yeah. Well, I just thank you so much for sharing the story, because for me, one of the things I love doing on my channel is sharing stories of amazing cars, and to have this car in this condition. And again, I'm going to struggle to do it justice on camera because it's so beautiful. The details on it are something else. But it's a credit to Thornley Kelham.
Well, thank you. And it's a credit to the team. And I think it's what gives us joy. To see this car come back to life and then to be able to pass it on to the owner and for him to basically say, thank you, it's great. That kind of makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
It really does.
Simon, thank you once again, my friend.
Thank you.
Amazing.
There
you go.
Okay.
Probably the best conditioned Lamborghini Miura in the world.
I would never say that, but I'm happy
I can say that.
You can say it.